My name is Claire Donovan. I was 34 years old when my mother-in-law smiled in front of 20 relatives and said, "Only family members get a seat at this table." Then she looked directly at me. "You can eat in the garage." Everyone laughed, even my husband stayed silent, so I picked up my plate, walked out without saying a single word, and made one phone call 48 hours later. A moving truck pulled into her driveway by sunset. She was standing on the front lawn, holding a cardboard box. As I quietly handed her the house sale papers, she screamed, "You can't do this." I smiled. I already did, because the one thing my mother-in-law never knew was that the house she'd been calling her family home had never belonged to her. It belonged to me, and she had just given me the perfect reason to take it back. I didn't look back. I quietly finished my dinner in the garage, got into my old grey SUV, and drove home. My husband Daniel came back almost an hour later. He found me sitting on the porch. He sighed. "Mom didn't mean it like that." I looked at him. "Then how did she mean it?" He had no answer. Instead, he said the words I'd heard 100 times before. "You know how she is." I smiled. That's exactly the problem. For years, I'd paid the property taxes, the insurance, the roof repairs, even the mortgage, not because I had to. Because Daniel's father had secretly asked for my help after his business collapsed. He was too proud to tell his wife. We made one agreement: no one would ever know, not Margaret, not Daniel, not anyone. Every payment came directly from my account. Every receipt carried my name, and every document stayed locked inside my attorney's office. The next morning, I called my lawyer. "Michael, it's time." He already knew what I meant. "Start the paperwork." "You sure?" I looked out the window. Never been more sure. Days later, the automatic mortgage payment failed, not because the bank made a mistake, because I had cancelled it. Friday morning, Margaret called. I ignored it, then another call, then another. By noon, she'd called 14 times. Finally, Daniel answered. I could hear her shouting through the phone. "Bank says the payment didn't go through." Daniel looked at me. "Claire, you forget." I calmly shook my head. "No, I stopped paying." His face turned pale. "What, you can't just stop?" I quietly stood up. "Been paying for 6 years. No one ever asked if I could. You only noticed when I stopped." Daniel stared at me, as if he'd never really known me. Then there was another knock at the door. Not the bank, not another family member, my lawyer. He walked inside carrying a thick black folder. He placed it on the table, then looked directly at Daniel. "I think it's time your family learned who actually owns that house." Daniel frowned. "What are you talking about?" Michael slowly opened the folder and slid one document across the table. Daniel read the first page. His hands began shaking because printed across the top, in bold letters, was only one name: Claire Donovan. Daniel read the document once, then again. His face lost all colour. This can't be right." He looked at my attorney. "There's been a mistake." Michael calmly adjusted his glasses. "There hasn't." He opened another folder. "6 years ago, your father couldn't qualify to refinance the mortgage after his business collapsed." Daniel looked confused. "My father never told me that. Didn't want anyone to know." Michael continued. "Bank approved the refinance, only because Claire agreed to become the legal borrower. Eventually, the sole owner." Silence, absolute silence. Daniel slowly looked at me. You owned the house." I nodded. "For almost 6 years. Never cared whose name was on the mailbox. I only cared that your parents had a home." Just then, the front door burst open. Margaret rushed inside. Behind her, my father-in-law. She pointed at me. "What have you done?" "The bank says the mortgage is overdue." I looked at her calmly. "I stopped making payments." She laughed bitterly. "You can't threaten us. This is our house." Without saying a word, Michael handed her the deed. She grabbed it confidently, then froze. Her smile disappeared. She stared at the first page, read it again, then whispered, "No, this isn't possible." My father-in-law quietly took the papers from her. His shoulders dropped. He already knew, because he'd signed every document beside me years ago. Margaret turned toward him. "You knew?" He slowly nodded. "I did. You lied to me. I protected our family. You protected our home. Claire made that possible." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "You let your daughter-in-law own our house," he answered quietly. "No, I let the only person willing to save this family." "Save it." Room fell silent. Then Michael spoke again. "There is one more document." He placed a purchase agreement on the table. "I received an offer yesterday." Margaret looked horrified. "Offer? What offer?" I finally spoke. "I accepted it this morning." Her knees almost gave out. "You sold the house." I looked directly into her eyes. "The closing is next Friday. The new owners take possession in 30 days. The first time, the woman who had proudly told me, not family, begging to stay inside the home that had quietly been mine all along." Margaret couldn't breathe. She looked from me to the deed, then back at the purchase agreement. "No, you can't sell our home," I answered quietly. "I already did." She stepped closer. Tears rolled down her face. "Please, this is where our grandchildren come for Christmas. This is where we've lived for 30 years. I nodded. "I know, 6 years ago, it would have been gone if I hadn't saved it." She covered her mouth. For the first time, No one defended her, not Daniel, not my father-in-law, not even my sister-in-law. My father-in-law slowly sat down, his voice trembled. Claire, I asked you to help us. Never asked for anything in return. You paid every bill, every repair, you even covered my hospital surgery. He lowered his head, and this is how we thanked you. Room became painfully quiet. Daniel walked toward me, his eyes were red. I failed you. I watched my family hurt you. And I kept making excuses. I looked at him for a long moment, then I said softly, you didn't lose me today. You lost me every time you chose silence. He couldn't answer because he knew it was true. Margaret suddenly dropped to her knees. I'm begging you, please don't take our home. Apologize, tell everyone you're my daughter. Never treat you this way again. I looked at her calmly. I didn't want your apology. I wanted your respect. You only found one after you lost everything, my attorney quietly spoke. The buyers are willing to cancel the purchase. If Ms. Donovan requests it. Everyone looked at me, waiting, hopping. I took a slow breath, then smiled gently. Cancel the sale. Margaret burst into tears. Thank you. Before she could say another word, I continued. But not for you. Everyone froze. I turned toward my father-in-law. This house deserves one more chance. You do. Things will change. I placed a new folder on the table. My attorney prepared a family trust. The house stays in the family. From today, belongs to Grandpa's grandchildren. No one can sell it. No one can borrow against it. No one can use it to control anyone ever again. My father-in-law's eyes filled with tears. Still do that. After everything, I smiled. Home should be a place where people feel welcome. Where they're told to eat in the kitchen. No one spoke. A year later. Thanksgiving came again. 40 relatives filled the same dining room. This time, Margaret personally carried one chair. She placed it at the head of the table, right beside her own. Then she looked at everyone and said, before we eat, I need all of you to know something. She turned toward me. The strongest person in this family is the woman I almost drove away. She smiled through tears, and from this day forward, no one in this house will ever question where Claire belongs. I looked around the room at the same people, the same table, the same house. The only difference was respect. Grandpa Henry used to say, a family isn't measured by the people who share your last name. It's measured by the people who make sure you always have a seat at the table. This time, when dinner began, no one ate before me because everyone finally understood. The greatest revenge isn't taking someone's home, it's teaching them how to become a family.